Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Breathe Deeper. Why does the world feel so much heavier now? As I end this year, I see a common sentiment across almost everywhere on the internet, a collective nihilism, it seems, a sense of lack of meaning, of purpose. And it's hard to feel as if things are going the right way when there's economic downturns, rising costs, and many other difficulties facing us right now. And so I want to delve into why we seem to struggle with this sense of direction. And most of all, in a world of so much progress, why do we seem to struggle with our sense of purpose? One such way we can observe a decline in meaning and in purpose is just by looking at the overall religious decline in the past few decades and the sharp drop in overall religious participation, which was a central part of meaning for so long in human history, might signal a sense of confusion for many people, as with the amount of new options, different life paths one could take, it leads to a sense of almost aimlessness, as one doesn't really know how to approach this, how to find a new route, or how to find a place that really gives them a sense of home. And with this overall decline in faith, it really just seems to make that there's no structure to build a new sense of meaning. There's no clear defined way to fix things. And so this overall has led to a really obvious void in purpose. Another way there's a sense of lack of purpose and of meaning is also in the fact that the modern individual is radically free. They have so many more options nowadays, and oftentimes the freedom that used to be liberating can feel like a sort of anxiety. And this in turn just leads to a sense of confusion, a sense of being lost and not knowing where to go. And for modern individuals, this is what has led to a sense of agreement that there is no purpose to life. And although I don't fully agree with that sentiment, I can kind of see where its roots come from. And overall, it just feels like everything is so much more negative nowadays because of this unclear definition towards what we're searching for. Another reason to explain why there's been a decline in meaning and lack of purpose has to do with the fact that life has been kind of reduced to a sense of just utility or just a tool, as everything is quantified based on, is it useful? Is it measurable? Is it profitable? Is it productive? And by flattening everything to these simple terms and just focusing on what we can produce, I think we really lose out on an overall sense of mindfulness and just focusing on what we can bring to the table and what our value truly is, because oftentimes when we put things behind these numbers, we tend to just lose out on the overall soul of humans because we want to have a slow sense of life. Because if we're able to slow down a bit, we can really see what matters to us. And so now worth has been kind of turned into this thing that needs to be measured, when oftentimes it's more intrinsic. It comes from within, and it can change a lot. But oftentimes, we just don't see that. Another reason for our sense of a lack of meaning is that the world has shifted and has become disenchanted in a way that we view it. That we don't really view it as mysterious or something to explore, or that it has a depth beyond its just simple function. And we tend to overanalyze it and just look at it from almost a detached lens instead of looking beyond its surface level. And because we do this, we are essentially just looking at everything from a base level, and we're not looking at it from a sacred or spiritual level. For example, with nature, how we oftentimes will notice it around us, but for the world to be enchanted, and how we used to look at different things with meaning, we would see nature around us as something more than just there. It had a sense that it could bring us more meaning, that we would notice it as something that we want to connect to, and that it would provide us almost a sense of comfort. But we've lost out on that. We have abandoned that. And I feel like with the strict focus on data and collection and observation, we've kind of just lost the simple joy of taking in everything around us. Another reason for our decline in meaning and our lack of purpose may have to do with the sense that modern life has kind of destroyed our identity, our sense of self. And it really has to do with how we constantly compare ourselves to other people. And as they always say, comparison is the thief of joy. It's a bit cliche, but it really does kind of give an idea of why comparison ruins our enjoyment of the moment. Because we're proud of ourselves, but we start comparing ourselves to others and we feel like we're not that special. And maybe we aren't, but it really does feel a lot more nice to just say that we are here and we are contributing. And that's what I'm trying to take away from it. And so, with the multiple different social roles we have and the multiple different personas we must put on in order to avoid certain things like being shamed or disgraced, and how we're not allowed to always be authentic because it's seen as cringy, then we essentially turn our identity into something that can be performed. It's performative. It's no longer just ourselves. It has to be more of a production. And so that's what another way to just explain why we all feel so lost. Lastly, I think the perception of meaning in the modern world has turned into something where it kind of just strikes us as an epiphany, or almost like out of nowhere that it will just come to us. But we have to be actively willing to search for it. We have to be open-minded and willing participants in the search or in the just overall game of life. We have to be willing to be able to put ourselves out there. And with the modern life, we are essentially taking that and thinking that, yeah, we don't have to try because eventually we'll figure it out. And we put it further down the line. But if we really want to find meaning, we have to act now. That's what we have to do now. And so this is just another way to look at our sense of lack of purpose and meaning, that we have to find it from within. Because if we are actively taking steps toward just exploring new interests, exploring new hobbies, exploring new activities and experiences, then eventually a sense of purpose and a sense of grounding will arrive. And so to end off with a final note, I just want to mention how hard this video was for me to make. It really was a chore for me to put out because it really asked me to look at my own life and how I view meaning. And I kind of just want to end off on a positive note after a little bit of the darkness that we kind of explored together. And I want to say that meaning can be found through living deliberately. That we don't just live with convenience. That we actively fight against the status quo or just the normalcy. That we are willing to live intentionally and mindfully and really let ourselves look for our own meaning just by reflecting on our own lives. And oftentimes we're so distracted because we see all these terrible things happening. We think we're doomed. It's over. Why try anymore? But we can find meaning just by stepping back from all of that, by giving ourselves the chance to just meditate on what we're looking for, what we want. Maybe we can start to work towards finding purpose and meaning. Thank you. And as always, thank you for breathing deeper with me.